Welcome everybody to another edition of the Fantasy Golf Insider webcast and podcast. My name is Jeff Bergerson. My screen name on daily fantasy sites is JT Bergerson. I'm joined as always by my partner, Zach Turcotte. His screen name is Mysteriously. We are with FantasyGolfInsider.com. And if you have not signed up for a premium membership with us, do that right now. Well, wait. All right, now that you've signed up for a premium membership, you're going to become a better DFS player because we bring to you strategy, recommendations every week. We got tools, a model that are going to help you become a better DFS player. Just to mention, we are available in a podcast. We are on iTunes, so you can find us there. Be sure to give us a good review. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you know exactly when our video comes out each week. Zachary, before we recap WGC, we heard from a couple of people who had a lot of success last week.
Excellent.
Craig Chinaski took first place this week on the DraftKings $15,000 PGA long drive and second place in the $6,000 Mulligan contest. So awesome. Congrats to you, Craig. Also, we heard Scott Shapiro won the $5,000 best ball on Fantasy Aces. So congrats, guys. That's awesome achievement. Keep up the hard work. Zachary, what were your takeaways from last week, which was the WGC-Cadillac? Adam Scott is obviously back.
Yeah, I mean, that was big. I mean, that was my first pick of the week. That was Roger's first pick of the week. What I was shocked at was when the ownership number showed up, and we saw that in the big $300 contest this last weekend, 8%.
Mind-blowing.
And I think that's people starting to kind of outthink themselves a little bit when it comes to strategy with these things. And I put that in my article. I said, you know, there's so much bias. If a guy takes second place the week prior, he's very popular next week. But if he wins, well, now he must not care anymore. Well, it's a WGC event.
Right.
It's a big deal event. It's not like he's going off to the Travelers or the Greenbrier, some slacker event like that, you know, where only Bubba cares about it. But it's just... What I want people to start thinking about is recency bias doesn't just apply to guys who missed the cut the prior week. Because that's where most people think about it. All right, I'm not going to take this guy because he missed the cut. But at the top, people in this game are just, they're hands off when it comes to taking the guy who won the week prior. And when you look at the guys who won the week prior, the biggest thing you want to assess is this really a middle-of-the-road guy, or is this a high-level guy?
There's a big difference between Vaughn Taylor and Adam Scott.
Yeah, and I mean, Adam Scott, second place 2 weeks prior, won the week prior.
Yeah. Coming
into this event, he's on fire.
Yeah.
He took fourth here the year before when his game was all out of whack. This is clearly a course you know, that he plays very well, that he likes a lot, that he's had success at over the years. So it was just a golden opportunity there. So that was a great starting point. You know, the high points for us were locking in a lot of the guys who did well. So we had Scott at the top, perfect. We had Bubba second. We had him recommended there highly. We had Danny Willett.
Willett was huge.
1, 2, 3, boom, 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 good start.
Yep.
And we had a few rough patches in the middle where folks just really underperformed their price. It was discouraging to see Henrik Stenson come over. Typically when he comes over, he's ready to go right out of the gates.
Usually a top 5.
It's an event that he does well at. He was 5th the year prior, so it was disappointing to see him just completely kick it in on day 2.
Yep.
Matt Kuchar started out really strong the first day. Actually had a putt in the middle of the first round. Would have been his 3rd birdie in a row. Would have gotten him to 4 under. In the first round, he was looking good. He ended up, I think, finishing 2 under for the first day, and then 6 over day 2, and he's done.
Yep.
JB Holmes, complete trash the first day,
trash.
Which was amazing because his form was so good. He had played well here last year. I guess the thing to think about with Holmes that I did mention a little bit in my column, but probably should have thought about a little bit more, was last year almost all of his success came on one round.
Yeah.
One round where he shot a 62, so he was 10 under on that Thursday.
That's true.
And then he finished 8 under for the tournament. So he really didn't build on it at all. And then this weekend he had nothing. So really now he's had 7 pretty mediocre rounds and 1 phenomenal round. So just something to store away. But I wasn't really picking him during the week because of last year as much as he'd just been playing really well leading into the event. So seeing him not play well at all was a little bit frustrating.
Yeah, it hurt. The optimal lineup obviously lost for the first time in 4 or 5 weeks.
Right.
But it was mainly those guys, it was Stenson and Holmes, that crushed it.
Oh, yeah, they ruined it because we had Willett in there.
Right.
So Willett played fantastic. He put in a position. If we had one more guy do anything in that lineup, which should have been Stenson or should have been Holmes, that lineup cashes easily. Very easy. And the other thing is we definitely both said last week, limit your cash games. And we didn't get a ton of questions on cash games from folks throughout the week on email or on Twitter. So I'm assuming that most people did kind of limit their exposure to that, which was good. I know I took mine down quite a bit. I threw the optimal lineup out there a little bit. But other than that, I think limiting your cash games during weeks like that.
No cut events,
you just
smaller fields.
You don't have the advantage because people can just take more chances. You know, they can do the total stars and scrubs lineup. And if they hit 2 stars that end up in the top 10, you know, they probably end up cashing. So you just don't get to take advantage of the risks or the mistakes that people make. Because people do still make a lot of mistakes with their lineups. They started a lot of first timers. You notice that all of those guys, like we said, stay away from Bowditch, obviously, who was just god awful, historically bad this last week. You know, so we said to stay away from a lot of these guys down near at the bottom, younger guys, first time guys, and we were right. But it didn't really matter if the guys that they ended up with at the top came through. So. Cash game wise, the lineup didn't do that well this week, but you know, overall, it's still been very solid for us.
It has been. We're not going to give up on it.
Yeah, definitely no. So, takeaways. It was a great event, very exciting. I think I cast my black magic spell onto Rory.
So everything you put out there on Twitter,
people don't get it too, and they still take it. The same guys still take me seriously. They don't fully understand yet that in my head, because I had a Scott team and I had a Bubba team, that I needed Rory to kind of go under so these teams could move up and get me into the money. So I have to actually get to a point in my head where I give up on my teams, just push the chips all over to another direction. It has to be an honest inside field, and then put it right out there for everybody to see.
And then the responses come flowing in.
Immediately.
Oh yeah, Rory, see what you said.
Immediately, and it worked.
We know.
And it worked. So I'm learning now to sort of use my dark magical powers for my own good.
I think Moose tweeted, he's like, "Oh, I see what you did there."
You did. Moose got it. Moose, good on you, buddy. You got it. You got it right away. But I'm not going to explain it to people anymore. I tried to explain it a little bit yesterday into the jinxing, the reverse hexing, all of those things that go on with my.
See, I don't even need to put it in print. I just think it. Well, and I was thinking, wow, DJ's doing well.
Text it to me, and then
then it's over.
Yeah, exactly. And boy, DJ, he went fast.
Wow,
that was brutal. But it was an exciting tournament. I think the strategy there again, which we recommended for folks, go all stars and scrubs pretty much for your GPP lineups. That was the way to go, and that's what ended up winning for folks. It was the guys who had just a couple big stars that came through at the top and managed not to have complete garbage for their punt plays to get through. So. Good tournament, and I think it's an exciting sign for things to come for the rest of the year. Because now, last year, you had a couple horses right there at the top, but it really ended up being kind of a 2-man race. Now I think there's a lot of different people who are in play, just even heading into the Masters here in another month or so. I mean, you'll get Adam Scott's resurgence. All of a sudden, Phil can play. Yeah. Phil's not going to compete this week, right?
Well, that's what you said about Phil on your Periscope too, right? Didn't you declare that?
I've never really felt like he had a chance to win the event. I'm going to say that.
Does he ever?
If he was right there on Sunday, I never really felt like he was going to make that final charge through. But he's playing really well this year.
Yeah, he does.
And I think going into Augusta,
although wasn't he like 10 under, and then he just plummeted to 5 under day 2.
Friday, he had a 3 or 4 shot lead.
Right.
I looked and he was -9. I went into a meeting and then he was -5.
Yeah.
So he completely rolled it right there. That was his chance. Had he just kind of stayed even right there, he may have burned us. But fortunately, he filled it up on Sunday and couldn't pull it off. And then even missed his last little putt for par in the end to fall back to 9 under and drop him. So I think he did end up at 5th place. So a good finish for him. But yeah, fortunately he didn't win. So that would have
been bad.
Would have felt even more like a fool. But all right, yeah.
Should we go on to shots of the week? You need some alcohol in you.
Yeah.
Because you need to tell everybody that you're drinking sparkling water tonight.
Come on.
Brutal.
Calling me out on camera.
Drink your sparkling water. We got to get some liquor in you. Let's do shots of the week.
Long night ahead.
Who was nominated by Mike Guido this week. And you already mentioned his name, Stephen Bowditch.
Yeah.
Just him in general, we're going to take a shot to this week because he was so horrifically bad. Mike threw out a stat, and I don't know if it's true or not because our crack research team wasn't really working today. So, but his stat was in the last 30 years on the PGA Tour, no one has shot in an 80 or worse in all 4 rounds. And I suppose that could be true because if you shot 80s on cut events, you wouldn't be around for 4 rounds. So it very well could be. So that's a solid stat just to show how bad
I don't know if
he
you
was.
saw. Did you see what the book that I tweeted?
No,
today?
What was that?
There's actually a book about like it has to do with when Tiger was at the top and like dethroning Tiger or something along those lines. And the author's interviewing different players about things they like or don't like. And there's actually a passage there that says, and Stephen Bowditch says he loves WGC events because even if you shoot 80 every day, you still get paid.
Oh my gosh, that's outrageous.
Yeah, that was Ryan Forbes tweeted that out.
That's funny.
That was the greatest thing that I saw yesterday.
My God.
He went ahead and pulled it off.
He did.
Yeah.
He shot a plus 37, which was 49 strokes worse than Adam Scott. We had one earlier this year like that. That's terrible.
Unbelievable.
I know. 49 strokes worse. He put up a 10 on a par 4.
Wow.
That's crazy. And I was just looking through the shot tracker. His 4th shot went 7 feet. So I think it was from a bunker. Maybe he hit the lip or something. I don't know. I don't know how it goes 7 feet. He had 10 double bogeys or worse.
Yikes.
In the tournament. The list goes on, but Eyebrow Man just sucks.
He's in an awful place right now with his game. I think people are deceived right now when they look at his statistics because they see all these made cuts. 5 of these are basically non-cut events. So DraftKings doesn't really distinguish when they put that stat out there.
So that's a key point.
So they've got the 2 WGC events were no cut. The CIMB, no cut. The Tournament of Champions, no cut. So all of these events here were, they count as a cut made.
Right.
You don't realize he's really only made it to Sunday on his own 1 time this year. That was at Pebble Beach. Yep. So
you got to look closely at that.
Yes, definitely, and some of the other ones too. When you look at the Tournament of Champions, he took 23rd.
23rd, top 25
out of 32. The Hero World Classic. He was 17 out of 18.
That was Lahiri, I think I saw last week. He took 17th.
Yeah, so there's a lot of real deceptive things out there statistic-wise. When you look at that page, you think, "Wow, this guy looks pretty good," and you look just a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not quite so much.
But, So Stephen Bowditch. And don't forget, our shot of the week is sponsored by Swannies Footwear and Golf Apparel, where they are offering a discount of 20% off your order if you just use discount code FANTASYGOLF. Go to SwanniesFootwear.com for all your footwear needs. You want to talk about Wacky Wagers?
No.
Okay. I was hoping we could dive into a nice, tasty meat pie.
We're close to.
A pasty.
Alan Klutz, he beat me by 10 points. He was able to hang on coming down to the finish. One of the more exciting finishes we had. He actually had DJ on his team, so he had a fairly healthy lead going into the back 9. I was out of guys. He had 9 holes, and we both had Willett, so he had 9 holes more than me at that stage. And then DJ single-handedly just starts to fall to pieces, and the lead goes from about 25 points down to about 4 points at one point. A couple more double bogeys from DJ, and it would have been lights out, which would have been a fantastic way to win a wacky wager. But Alan pulled it off.
Fine, Alan. We'll send you some swag. But if you do want to be a good guy and send us some of those tasty pasties anyway, they look delicious from your picture. So feel free to send them here.
Yeah, we'll eat them right in the show.
They look fantastic. I was hoping you would pull out a victory so he could eat them. But
yeah, oh, well, the optimal lineup didn't work out for that one.
That sucks. If you have any other wacky wagers that you want to put up against Zachary for some of our swag, feel free to send in a picture of what you want to wager.
What's the Freddie Jakobsen top 25 count at? How many more does he still need? Oh, he didn't play this weekend.
Freddie Jakobsen. Roger, your bet is so dead.
One of many events he's probably not going to qualify for throughout the year, so he was off.
Zero chance.
So he needs still 7 more.
7 top 25s.
Over the last 6 months of the season. So I'm feeling good about that one.
So on to this week's event, the Valspar Championship. We're sticking around in Florida.
Yep.
It's at Innisbrook Resort.
Another tough course.
Copperhead. Yeah, it's awesome. Another tough course. You're going to see some good players up near the top of the leaderboard, although the field isn't as strong as you might suspect here.
Just tune out on Thursday morning and afternoon. I recommend not checking your scores until probably middle of Friday afternoon or so. If you look early on Thursday, the way this field is set up and the way the pricing is set up here, we're probably in for quite a bit more carnage this week.
There's going to be carnage. If you thought it's been tough getting a lot of guys through the cut on your rosters before, this week is going to be very, very difficult.
It should be at least as tough as Honda,
yep.
I would assume.
So a 4 of 6 cash lineup, I think, will probably be
if you
good
have
enough
one or
if it's solid.
If you have one or two guys near that
Yep.
do reasonably well, I think 4 of 6 will do it. 5 of 6 is going to be gold for sure.
Yep.
So yeah, I think as far as strategy is concerned this week, the way the pricing is set up, you've got some strength at the top of the card, but a little bit of question marks in each area. There's nobody up there who's you feel like is definitely gonna do it this week. You know, I mean, you see Spieth who won it here last year, but coming in, playing a little shaky. He's been a little bit up and down. You don't feel 100% like he's gonna do it. I think if you look at that upper 10K range, most of that for me is gonna be GPP play. I don't see anybody in that range of 10,000 or up where I feel like, yes, I have to have this guy.
Not for cash.
On my cash team. And I think for the most part, what I'm going to end up doing is probably working in that 8 and 9K range to get 4 to 5 golfers on to a roster. And then if you look down, there's a lot of question marks in the middle 7s all the way through the 6s. There's plenty of potential there. Some of these guys are going to show up, but each one of them is a blow-up hazard.
Yep.
Almost all of them. And if you look down, what they've done that's kind of interesting is that in the lower 6s and even high 5,000 range, there's a lot of guys who have actually played pretty well this season who I think have just as good a shot of making the cut and factoring in as guys as high as like the 7,000 range. So my recommendation for putting together a lot of your cash game lineups is going to be to take 4 to 5 really solid, steady guys in the 8 to 9K range and then drop way down, grab one of those guys in the lower range. Because I think if you get 5 to 6 through, you should be good. And the guys that are in that lower range, for the most part, a lot of those guys have a pretty high cut percentage in terms of what they've made for the season so far. So I think that's probably going to be my strategy in terms of cash games. And I may even go a couple of those guys and then work my way up to get a couple stars for some of my GPP lineups.
Okay, so Copperhead, 7,340 yards, par 71. It's not like the other courses on the Florida Tour, which are relatively flat. This one has some rolling terrain, a lot of trees. The closing holes make up another one of these awesome names, the Snake Pit. Yeah. How do you like Snake Pit?
I didn't like it last year. I didn't like it.
No, the name.
I think it's cool.
I think the name's one of the better ones, actually.
Yeah, when they show that first opening shot coming into the course, it's got the big Copperhead.
Yeah,
basically,
I like it.
Snake. So
I think it's solid. Only 3 of the top 10 guys in the world are here this week, so the field is a little bit down.
No surprise.
No, key stats this week we're looking at strokes gained tee to green, strokes gained putting, birdie or better percentage, proximity, scrambling, and driving accuracy, which is kind of opposite of last week where we're going to put a premium on accuracy as opposed to distance.
This course kind of similar to like the Heritage.
Yeah, so I was looking at corollary courses, and RBC Heritage, it looks very much similar. You get a lot of the same players playing on it. So, I would look back at old RBC results as a decent place to do your research as well.
Sure.
So you want to talk about specific players. You mentioned at the top, anyone that you want to take a chance on in GPPs?
Well, given what his ownership trends have been for Jordan Spieth, I think if you're going to play in that $300 event this week, I think leading off one of your lineups, depending on how many you play, especially if you're putting in a lot of lineups, have room for one Spieth team or two Spieth teams. Mm-hmm. He's probably going to be fairly low owned. He hasn't played great coming into this event, even though he won here a year ago. I don't think people are that excited about him. And even last year, after most of his wins, he was never that highly owned.
He wasn't.
So Spieth doesn't tend to be that highly owned.
In the higher dollar games.
Especially in the higher dollar games. So I think if you are playing in the higher dollar games or a big qualifier or something along those lines, I think Spieth is a nice option there at the top, because I think even with the win, he will, and even being the number one player in the world, he's going to be a little bit of a contrarian play there at the top.
I was really hoping Danny Willett would win last week. I had 60% ownership percentage on Danny Willett exposure, but it still wasn't enough for my GPP teams to get in the money, even with his run. But now it bumps up his price. It bumps up his ownership most likely. He's at 10,800 this week. Any interest?
A little bit. Again, I'm not going to go there for cash. The European guys have had the tendency to show up and do pretty well at an event when they come over, and then the next week we've seen it with Oosthuizen. We've seen it with Brandon Grace last year at the U.S. Open, where they show up, they look great in these star-studded events, and the next week kind of fall flat a little bit. So I certainly wouldn't be looking at him for cash. I'll probably mix him in a little bit in terms of GPP. He should have the skill set to do fairly well at this course. So I don't doubt that he doesn't have the talent. It's just in a field this week, he's going to get the price boost.
Yeah, it's huge this week.
Like he has. But I mean, in that range, as far as the guys that are up there, he's still probably one of my favorite plays that are up there in that range.
Are you done with Patrick Reed?
I don't think so.
God, that guy.
There's been a real issue with him since going back to the Tournament of Champions. I think he was second there.
Yeah, he was good there.
In the last 5 events, he was 6th in Phoenix. And he looked pretty good. He rallied back the last day. The other 4 events, 2 missed cuts and then 2 really bad finishes.
Yep.
So calendar year 2016, something is happening right now. I'm not sure, but I'm not willing to jump off the way. This would be the week where everybody's clearing out, because he missed the cut previously, so people were still kind of on him. This last week had been an event he had won previously. This week, everybody, after seeing him last week, they're going to be out of there on him for the most part. So it is going to be a good opportunity to own some shares of Patrick Reed, because I think a lot of people will finally push the panic button this week. They're going to get out, and Patrick Reed he's going to bounce back. I just don't see him staying down here for the rest of the season. He's way too talented of a player. This is an event that he's obviously done well at before. So I think as much pain as it brings me, I probably will still use Patrick Reed for one of my higher buy-in GPP events.
You're a glutton.
Week. I am, and in the bounce backs, usually I get bounced right in the face. If I don't come back with the guy right away, he usually does pretty well. If I stick I stick with him over and over, I usually just continue to get kicked in the.
Yep. So. I like, even in GPPs, I like sticking around in that $9,000 range with several of the guys.
There's a lot of strength in that range. That's where I feel like it's going to be strongest.
I like Duffner this week a lot. I wrote him up for our ESPN article expert picks this week. I also like Harris English in that area. I like Kuchar. Sure. Dropping down in the low 8s, Luke Donald. You can't argue with his success on this course. Although he's been not very good lately, he's been making cuts.
He's making cuts, which is good. I would have expected the Honda would have been an event where he jumps up, even if he's 15th or 20th instead of being in the top 10. But he was really bad. It took quite an effort for him to make the cut, which could be good for this week. I think a lot of people will remember that and say, he did nothing for my team that week, and he didn't play great here a year ago. So I don't think his ownership level will be quite as through the roof as what we saw just a couple weeks back.
I just feel like a guy like those guys in that range have the opportunity to win this tournament. Like the WGC, I wouldn't have said that. Like a
No
lot of
way.
guys in the 9s can come up
No
and
way.
dethrone, Bubba or Adam
It's
Scott.
unlikely. I mean, Willett's up there. Willett was up
Yeah.
there at 7,800, but
But he still didn't win.
But he's really the only one. Everybody
Yeah.
else right up there at the top.
Yep.
They're a star. I mean,
So when we're talking about GPPs, I'm going to look at 6 guys who, if I can get 6 through the cut in a GPP,
Yeah, you're
I
in
feel like
position.
I'm in great position, and then one of these guys has the opportunity to win it. It's not going to be dominated. Yeah, Spieth will be up there most likely, but these guys could very well win it. We saw Duffner can win. And I also like Kevin Streelman at 8,200. I think he's a legit play this week.
he's been playing well this season.
He has. I wasn't happy with his price. I thought it was a little steep for Kevin Streelman, but
he's
good
had some-
tournament history, obviously.
That's just it.
Yeah.
They just put those two factors together, and
Yep.
all of a sudden, then you got a guy that's playing there. A guy that I thought was kind of underpriced this week would be Danny Lee.
Yeah.
I hate being a Danny Lee guy. I know Roger's always been a Danny Lee guy, and
Yeah.
I somehow keep coming back to him again and again. But at 8,000, he took 7th here last year. These are the kind of fields where Danny Lee tends to do really well. You get Danny Lee in a real strong field,
Yeah.
he'll kind of fall back. He was actually in pretty good position over the weekend, and he shot just awful.
Yeah.
Finished really bad. But Danny Lee in a weak field is really juicy, especially at 8,000. I think he's a very solid cash game play, and he's a good GPP play because he's got that top 10 potential there as well. So he's a
I
guy
agree with you on that one.
at 8,000 that I like quite a bit.
Dropping down to the 7s and even the 6s,
Sure.
who are you eyeing in that range?
Well, at the top of the 7 range, I think Charles Howell III has done really well here the last couple of years, and he's got a pretty good tournament history overall, and he's been playing well for the most part.
Making
this season.
cuts like he does.
He missed the Honda by 1 stroke, and a lot of good players missed the cut there. I mean, Rory missed the cut there by 1 stroke. So I think he could get back onto CH3, probably a little more for cash games than GPP. I think he's a guy who's typically a popular option. And so I think people are going to look and see, the last 2 years he's been a top 15. They're gonna crowd in on that. So
I like Sean O'Hara at 7,800.
some guy who's had a pretty good resurgence lately, who's playing pretty well. What do you think of Sung Kang?
Sung Kang.
We've been talking about him a little bit tonight.
The guy's dynamic, and he's played amazing the last 3 weeks.
3 events.
Does that mean I can shove all in on Sung Kang?
He's not going into your cash games?
He's not going to be in my cash games, but I seriously am really intrigued for GPPs with this guy. He's very, very dynamic. 3 straight top 20s. And if you look at his stats are pretty awful when you look at it for the entire
whole
season.
season,
But if you segment it down the last few weeks,
take a look at the last
very
couple
good.
months. The beginning of the season, he got off to kind of a bumpy
Yes, he
start at
did.
the beginning of the year, but it's been much better since then.
And I think he's still somewhat under the radar, considering he has 3 straight top 20s. I haven't heard a lot about him, so I would definitely take a look at him this week.
Yeah. And the rest of the 7K range, there's a lot of guys who I have a lot of real mixed feelings on going from top to bottom. I mean, Patton Kizzire, this guy's been pretty good for most of his rookie season so far.
Yep.
He's showed up more often than not. But is he going to be able to play a course like this? Well, that requires quite a bit more accuracy than he normally brings.
Yep.
A guy like Graham Dillette, he's done very well here the last couple times out, but he's really playing pretty poorly over his last 5.
Yep.
See,
I'm not touching Dillette this week.
I mean, you look down a little further, you got Ches Reavie. He has been a guy who's outperformed really most of the other seasons that we've looked at over the last couple of years. All of a sudden, he's not just making cuts, but he's competitive to win events.
Yep.
But I know he's also a little bit shaky in terms of some of his statistics in terms of going into this course too. So there's not a lot of guys. Once you start looking in this range, and that's what getting back to our strategy is concerned, there's a lot of guys here who have potential to do well, but a lot of them are real blow-up candidates as well.
How about your team from yesteryear? Steve Stricker, Ernie Els, and VJ Singh, all within a few $100.
I like VJ. And looking at all of those guys, I like VJ best. It's one of the things we've mentioned before is that VJ really only plays courses that he likes, that he feels comfortable with. And if VJ likes and feels comfortable at a course, tends to be fairly successful there. He's had a couple of top 10s just over the last month and a half or so, and he's got a nice course history. I think he was 10th here a year ago. So VJ, I think, is a pretty good player to take a flyer on. Stricker, I'm not as sure about. Yes, over the years, he's been a cut maker. Yes, he's been an accuracy kind of guy. He hasn't played great this season. He did do pretty well at the Northern Trust, I think was the last event that he played. We made a cut, but he's, 2 of 5 so far this year. So I don't think making one cut all of a sudden puts him into form. So I think he's a little more of a question mark. Ernie Els would be sort of in the middle for me of those two. It's hard to say what weeks Ernie Els is going to show up. So I'm not.
Plus he's got the yips. So.
I'm just not that interested in Els when I can drop down though, and there is a player that I like at 6,900.
Oh, tell me.
Andrew Loop.
Yeah.
I think we have to get back to Andrew Loop. In the fall season, he would kind of rotate between missed cuts and top 10s.
Yep.
One or the other, which was real boom or bust. But since calendar year 2016 has kicked off, he's been very good. I believe now he's made 5 straight cuts. Did very well at the Honda. I think it was just outside of the top 10 there. Super athletic guy. It's something we've mentioned before.
Yep.
John Peterson called him the most athletic guy on tour, which is saying something considering what we've seen out of Dustin Johnson over the years. So just kind of a freakish athlete, and he seems to be really coming into form right now. So at 6,900, he's a guy that I will be definitely interested in that range. Who do you like there?
There's a couple of guys. I like Siwoo Kim at 6,700. He's been playing outstanding, and I feel good about him this week.
Finally got a week off. Take a little rest.
Yep. I think he's going to come back strong. Dropping down. Here's the thing. At 5,900, I see Hudson Swafford.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a little bit mispriced for him. Do I trust him completely? No,
but
of course not.
It's just a pure value play.
Yeah, right.
I mean, he should be. There's no reason he shouldn't be in that middle 6K range with all of the other guys.
Is he $1,000 less than Troy Merritt? Really? I mean, is that? So. I don't know what happened with the pricing model on that one, but I mean, for pure value in GPP, how can you not roll with Hudson Swafford?
Yeah.
Willie Wilcox at 6,800. Any interest at all?
I have some. The guy he's such a wild card.
He is.
You really don't know. I mean, I haven't even looked at his Twitter page yet for what he's telling people.
What he's predicting out of himself.
Not that really means anything either. Whether he's feeling good or bad about it, I feel like he hedges his bets on there as far as he's never really come in and said, I'm on fire this week. Get me into every one of your lineups.
I know.
It's always, we'll have to see. We'll see what happens after the practice rounds. Things feel okay, and he never really gives us that full, all right, be all in, move all your chips in the center.
Right.
I got this, boys.
I got it. Know.
And so that's always going to be tricky, but he does certainly have the talent. I mean, the guy is a good ball striker.
Yep.
So I haven't decided yet whether or not I'll end up writing him up or not. Probably a little bit too inconsistent so far for me.
There's some really strong talent down here. Patrick Rogers at 6,800, who I like a lot this season. He's been so bad lately.
Appears like he forgot how to play golf.
Yeah, at some point this season, I highly expect him to rebound and give us, the output that I think he will do, just like the rookies did last year with Justin Thomas.
But you know what? Here's the thing, and a couple other guys struggled like this. And Tony Finau is going through it again.
Yep.
These tough courses kill some of these guys.
Right.
And so a guy like Finau, just forget about him right now. The Florida stretch,
I think so.
It's just not where his game is at.
Yep.
And that could just be the case with Patrick Rogers.
It could be.
Like I said, we may get to the middle of the season where we get to the John Deere, we get to the Greenbrier, we get to the Quicken Loans
Travelers,
or whatever.
yeah.
Like all these soft events where guys are scoring minus 20. Those could be the events where some of these rookies who are struggling right now roar back and start having some nice finishes. So I think value-wise, like I don't feel great about Patrick Rogers because he looked really bad at Honda. So it's hard for me to see him being much better.
On another tough course.
We've seen guys turn it around in a hurry. I just don't think this is the one. I'm going to wait probably a few more weeks until we get out of the Florida stretch. We get out of some of the Texas stretch, which is always difficult too, given some of the weather conditions and things that we see down there. And so right after the Masters, we'll probably get a couple events where it softens.
And the fields are a week or two in between the majors when guys aren't playing.
Patrick Rogers is going to be 6,400, 6,500.
If he keeps playing like this,
nobody's going to like him.
Right.
And that's going to be the time when you're going to want to back up the truck and start buying in again.
Back up the truck. So 6,500 and below. Give us a couple of names that you're...
The Ass Wagon! I've been hanging on to that one. I mean, I don't think I'm excited about him, but he's just been a cut maker week. You can't deny that. Cut maker, just 1 week after another.
Yep.
Going just a little bit higher, too. I think a lot of people will probably be on him at 6,700 this week, but Colt Nost.
Yeah.
He has yet to miss a cut this season, so I mean, I think that's definitely...
So expect a cut miss from him this week after you say it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You know, looking down the list, there's a lot of guys right at the 6,000 range. I think Michael Kim at 6,100 has played really well so far this season. Dropping down Spencer Levine.
Yeah, Spencer Levine. I noticed him as well.
He had a stretch there at the beginning of 2016 where things weren't going his way at all after playing pretty well in the fall. Then he had a stretch of 3 or 4 straight events that didn't go very well. But he's made the last 3 cuts again, and he's had pretty good success here. So
yes,
5,900, that's a nice price for him. Ricky Barnes has been playing pretty well this season, and then getting down
50. Ricky Barnes.
You know, I'm not going to talk about him too much, but he's played.
First round leader bet.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then you've got another guy in Mark Hubbard at 5,700. He's a guy who's only missed 1 cut all season, and he's getting just no respect. No respect from the DraftKings people on his price. Not a lot of real high finishes, but again, a lot of times you don't even care. You just, at that stage, if you get a guy at 5,700 who makes the cut, you're ecstatic about that, especially if you end up grabbing one of these guys for cash and one of those guys makes the cut, and you've got 5 other rocks up there at the top, which hopefully only one blows up then for the rest of it.
Trevor Immelman? Darren Clark?
Yeah, Mike
Any
Weir.
interest?
No.
Mike Weir?
Yeah.
Gregory Yates?
Yeah.
Who the hell is Gregory Yates? Do you know who that is?
I don't know, but I'm sure somebody will tell us now, now that you've asked.
Chad Collins?
He had a couple decent events last season where all of a sudden he was kind of popular.
Rod Perry?
It's funny during the season how these guys will have 1 or 2 good events in that range, and then immediately the ownership will go like that, and they'll just get squashed, and everybody will come right back off of them again.
Didn't Trevor Immelman win the Masters? How does he have a green jacket?
He did.
I just don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, that's
all right. Whatever. For more picks this week, go to Zach's Daily Spin article, which comes out on Wednesday. Check out Roger's preview article, which will be out now. And check us out on Twitter at @FantasyGolfers. Zachary does Periscope on Wednesday nights, so join him for that after 9 o'clock. Email us at info@fantasygolfinsider.com with any questions or comments. Keep us updated how you're doing in the GPPs so we can give you some good karma your way. And that's all we got for this week. Zachary, any last final points?
I got nothing.
All right, thanks for that. Best of luck, everybody, and we will talk to you next week.
Good luck.
You're making fun of me for not finishing my shot and drinking fizzy water.
What kind?
San Pellegrino.
No flavor or nothing?
It's just fizzy. It's just fizzy.